Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire ads and streamable defenses. As I promised to you guys last week, you're getting a little bit early today because if you can't tell, I have a different background than I normally do. I am visiting my family for the holidays this week. As you can tell with the hat, Christmas is one of my favorite holidays. So yeah, you guys are getting this early today. I'm gonna go ahead and dive right into it. Most of you guys should know what to expect, but just in case, even though we're 16 weeks into the NFL season, have any first time listeners, what you guys get out of this episode is for my waiver wire section, I'm going to give you guys my top quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and flex ad of the week. These are players that have to have at least 50% roster availability on Yahoo. And then I'll give you guys my top 5 streaming defenses of the week. And just like the players, those have to have 50% availability or more in those leagues. So these are names and defenses that should be out there for you guys to go plug off the market as the waivers process overnight. Before I dive into my waiver wire section, I just want to reiterate something I said last week, guys. When you get in the playoffs, play the players that got you here. Don't try to go with a shot in the dark. Don't try to go with the flavor of the week because sometimes those do, bite you in the butt, to say the least. But with that being said, obviously there's some current concerns. If you are a Jalen Hurts manager, his availability for the game on Saturday is currently up in the air. So maybe you are looking for a quarterback option. And of course, there are injuries that happen. And then you have to prep for injuries, or like I mentioned last week, you have to be cutthroat. If you see that your opponent needs a quarterback because he lost Hurts, maybe your team your name needs a running back or a wide receiver because an injury got happened, and you have like 2 tight ends on your roster. Drop the tight end you're not going to use. Go pick up a running back that your opponent might use this week. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into it. My top quarterback out of the week, surprising everybody because of how bad his year 2 has gone so far. It's going to be Zach Wilson, actually. Zach Wilson is available in 93% of the leagues. And the reason why I'm saying Zach Wilson is if you are looking for a streaming option this week, I don't think he's a bad guy you can turn to. This past weekend, he had 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 3 rushes for 7 yards. Now, it wasn't perfect for Zach. There were some throws I'm like, what is this guy doing? But then he had about 4 or 5 throws that are pretty impressive that he did do. At the end of the day, he still has Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, his 2 tight ends, Michael Carter out of the backfield. So he still has some weapons that he can work with. And at the end of the day, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback in week 15. So with this week, if you're looking forward to what he's doing, he's got the Jaguars on Thursday night. The Jaguars are giving up 19 points per game to quarterbacks this year. That is the 6th most allowed. Now, when you go out there on the waivers, a lot of those quarterbacks don't excite you. They're more of a floor quarterback for you. So if you want to go with a safe option over Zach, because Zach does have a lower floor than those quarterbacks, sure. But if you want to go for the high ceiling play that could potentially put you over the edge and get you into the championship next week, man, I'm thinking about rolling the dice on any leagues that I'm streaming quarterbacks this week. My running back ad of the week, I'm going with Tyler Algier. He's available in 63% of the leagues. He's been getting more play over the last few weeks. This past weekend, he had 17 rushes for 139 yards, a touchdown. Now, he had 1 reception for -3 yards on only 1 target, so you want to see some more positive production out of that end. But with that being said, he's had 3 straight games where he's received at least 10 touches. Now, I will say this. This week, though, I don't know if I'm trying to insert him in my lineup unless I have to because of injuries at the running back position. Maybe you just lost Jonathan Taylor, for example. But with that being said, they are going against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend. The Ravens are only giving up 14.3 points per game to running backs this year. That's the 4th fewest. But with that being said, he's definitely worth a bench ad. He's definitely worth an ad if you lost to Taylor and you have to play him. I mean, at least he's getting those touches for you. I just don't like the matchup this weekend for him. Moving into my wide receiver ad of the week, I'm going to go with the rookie wide receiver out of Washington, Jahan Dotson. He's available in 83% of the leagues right now. This past weekend, he had 4 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown on 6 total targets. Now, over the last 2 games for Washington, he's received 15 targets. Now, they are going against the 49ers. The 49ers are giving up 21.8 points per game to wide receivers this year. That is tied for the 13th most allowed across the NFL. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, with Dotson being the 3rd on the pecking order in terms of targets, I don't necessarily want to pick him up and play him this week. For me, he's a guy where if I have Terry McLaurin on my roster or a Curtis Samuel on my roster, I want to go pick him up as a handcuff to those guys because nothing would hurt you guys more than if McLaurin got banged up this weekend and he has to miss championship week and you don't have Dotson just to slide him into your place. So this is more for the McLaurin and Samuel owners in case those guys were to suffer injury heading into championship week. But he's definitely worth a bench ad if he's going to continue to start seeing the targets again that he was seeing earlier in this season. My tight end ad of the week, this might be a decent streaming option for you guys. Trey McBride, the rookie tight end in Arizona. He's available in 96% of the leagues. Now, this past weekend, he had 4 receptions for 55 yards on 5 targets. He's had 11 targets over the last 2 games. Then when you look at the fantasy matchup, they are facing the Buccaneers on Sunday on Christmas Day. So this would be a player you can watch when you're, as long as you're not like too busy with your family stuff. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are giving up 8.8 points per game to tight ends this year. That is the 5th most allowed in the NFL. He's starting to get more involved in the offense as Ertz has been, his injury's been in the distance. He's getting more acclimated to the NFL system. And if he's going to continue to see 5 to 6 targets, you guys know I want to see that 7 to 9 target range for tight ends, but it's a bare bones out there in waiver land. So if you're looking for a decent streaming option, I think Trey McBride might be your answer this week. And then wrapping it up with my flex ad of the week, I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren, the backup running back for Pittsburgh. He's available in 87% of the leagues. Now, his numbers don't really jump out to you from this past weekend. He had 11 rushes for 38 yards, a touchdown. He had 1 reception for 11 yards on 1 target. But at the end of the day, Najee Harris has been playing really good football, and the offense still got the ball in Warren's hands 12 times. So that's very promising. Now, this kind of goes with me with Dotson, right? If you're a Najee Harris manager and Warren is out there on the market, you need to get Warren on your bench right now, because if Najee Harris gets banged up this weekend, you're going to want Warren to slide into Harris's place for championship week. This is more for the future. I wouldn't necessarily pluck Warren out off the line, off the waivers and pluck him into my lineup, but maybe if you're desperate for a flex play, he does have a decent matchup against the Raiders this weekend. The Raiders are giving up 20.6 points per game to running backs this year. That is tied for the 7th most allowed across the NFL. Again, he's more of a bench ad, especially if you have Harris on your roster. But yeah, I would definitely pick him up if he's available out there. So again, my quarterback ad of the week, Zach Wilson. Running back ad of the week, Tyler Algier. Wide receiver ad of the week, Jahan Dotson. Tight end ad of the week, Trey McBride. And then my flex ad of the week is going to be Jaylen Warren. All right, moving into my top streaming defenses of this week. Again, these have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there's a good chance that you guys can go pick up these defenses and stream them if that's what you guys been doing like I have been doing all season long. My number 1 defense, even though the Texans have been playing strong football against some good teams over the last couple weeks, I'm still going with the Titans against the Texans. The Titans have kind of beaten up on the Texans for like the past several years. And then, guys, just like I've said all year, to me, even though the Texans have been playing some better football as of late, they're still a bad offense for you to stream a defense against. I mean, what? Damian Pierce is out. We'll have to see if Nico Collins or Brandon Cooks are going to be back this week, so they are very decimated at the skill position. I think it has definitely been promising to see how tough they played, but I can see where this Titans team, who has dropped 2 games in a row, the Jacksonville Jaguars are nipping on their heels for the AFC South. They got to come out and ball out and like play defense and like punch this Texans team in the mouth. So the Titans are out there. I'm trying to get them to put on my streaming defense for this week. My number 2, now this is, I'm not sure how I feel about this because the Rams defense hasn't necessarily been balling this year, even if Russell will, I'm assuming Russell will still play this week, but I still think even if Russell's back in the lineup, the Rams against the Broncos are a decent stream. The Rams are available in 68% of the leagues, and it's just because the Broncos offense has been a mess. They are prone to turnovers. Do we see Russell Wilson this week? Is the concussion going to put him out again this week? And if that happens and Brett Rippon plays, I mean, the Cardinals played worked out for me when I streamed the Cardinals in a couple leagues this past weekend. So especially if Russell's out, I'm trying to get the Rams defense. I think they're a sneaky streaming defense for week 16. Moving into the next one, I'm going to go with the Bengals against the Patriots. The Bengals are available in 71% of the leagues. We saw what they did in the second half to that Buccaneers offense against Tom Brady. Now, obviously, that Buccaneers offense is not what it was in the past couple years, but at the end of the day, we're able to create, 4 or 5 straight turnovers in the second half. And then they're going against this Patriots offense who is having their struggles on their own. Mac Jones has been more of a down quarterback than up this year. So I can see the potential for some turnovers. I can see some potential for some sacks. So I think the Bengals offense would be a decent streaming option for you guys if you were to miss out on the Rams and Titans this week. Another one that I'm starting to think maybe I should have ranked a lot higher. I'm going with the Browns against the Saints. The Browns are available in 74% of the leagues, and for me, it's just I don't think the Saints have the greatest offense in the world. And then this is going to be on the road. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to check out the as of right now weather prediction for this game. It's supposed to be a lot of snow, a lot of wind, very bad weather conditions, and it's going to be Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara's still there, but I just see that Saints offense having a lot of struggles, and obviously with some nasty weather that becomes with sacks. I could see Myles Garrett having a big game, and that could potentially lead not only to those sacks, but more importantly those turnovers, and maybe like a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown for you. So I think the Browns are also a good option to stream this week. Number 5, streamable defense. Go with the Chargers against the Colts. The Chargers are available in 76% of the leagues, and this is just strictly because the Colts' offense is a mess. They are the reason why the Vikings did make that comeback. Could have the Colts' defense made some stops, but at the end of the day, the Colts had to settle for 5 or 6 field goals instead of a touchdown. Once they get past midfield, they just struggle to put the ball in the end zone. There's always the potential for the turnovers with how Matt Ryan has played this year. And then Jonathan Taylor was placed on IR this week or today, so you don't have to worry about Jonathan Taylor being in the lineup. And it's an offense that's a complete mess. And maybe the Chargers should have even been ranked higher. Let's see if Derwin James and some of their other defensive pieces are back. If they are, then I definitely like them even more as a streaming defense. So yeah, if you miss out on those top 4 that I mentioned, I think the Chargers are still a very solid option for you to stream at the defensive position this week. So again, my top streaming defenses for week 16, Titans against the Texans, Rams against the Broncos, Bengals against the Patriots, Browns against the Saints, and then the Chargers against the Colts. So yeah, that is this week's top waiver wire ads and my streamable defenses. As always, guys, if you have any questions about players to add on your roster or defenses to stream this week that I did not talk about in this video, please get in my comment section. I always do my best to return some comments. Sometimes I don't get the updates sent to me properly, but I always do a good chance of checking those. If you don't hear from me on my comments, you can slide in my DMs. You can follow me at Cody Talks NFL across all the social media platforms I'm on, or if you do have my number, shoot me a text and I'll get right back to you. As far as my start sit video, with this being Christmas week, the holiday week, I know as we get closer to the weekend, people are going to be busy. We have all those games on Saturday. So with that being said, I'm going to be doing a early release of my start sits. I'm actually going to do that tomorrow. You should be seeing it sometime in the early afternoon, I imagine, from me. So stay tuned for that. Always make sure you subscribe to my channel so you do know when my latest content is posted. If you haven't liked the video yet, hit the like button. Other than that, I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace out. Enjoy your day or night or morning or evening whenever you're watching this. I'll talk to you guys soon.